I got a question for my viewing audience. Who's going to have the best quarterback in 2024 in the big conference?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube or wherever you're going to download your podcast, this show is free. I appreciate your support. You show your appreciation. If you're watching on YouTube, I need you to become a subscriber. I need you to smash that thumbs up, and I need you to click that bell notification button. All right. I thought we would take a really way too early look ahead to USC's 2024 big conference schedule. Why? Here's why. I know we're after the bowl season and everybody's been watching the playoffs. And by the way, great playoff games. I can't complain about either one. Those are what playoff games should look like. But everyone seems to be concerned that USC isn't ready for the big conference. That the Trojans they're not going to be good enough to compete at the top of the conference. USC is not going to be physical enough. I disagree. After watching the bowl games, I was like, this is what Trojan fans are afraid of? This is what's got everybody's pants all bunched up? I think we're going to learn a lot about USC after they play LSU to open the season out there in Las Vegas. LSU's starting quarterback, I'm assuming it's going to be Garrett Nussmeier. He tore up Wisconsin. Wisconsin with Luke Fickell as their head coach. In his start, I believe this was his first start, Jaden Daniels, was the Heisman winner this year. So once he stepped aside, Garrett Nussmeier stepped in there for LSU and had a pretty good game. So here's my thought. If the Trojans can come out and move the ball against LSU's defense the same way Wisconsin's offensive juggernaut and their quarterback Tanner Mordecai did, I think we're going to be okay. Excuse me. I think USC will have a chance in the big conference. So USC's defense has to face LSU in their first game. LSU's quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, had a really strong game, went up against what most think Wisconsin typically has a good defense in the big conference, tore it up. Conversely, Wisconsin's quarterback, senior Tanner Mordecai, tore up LSU's defense. So kind of put that to the side right now. You had a little bit of taste. Here, we know one thing for sure. USC in 2024, when they play in the big conference, their schedule, they're going to be playing on the road against the national champion as well as the runner-up. USC plays at Michigan and at Washington in 2024. Here's the thing, though. Both of those programs are probably going to be breaking in new starters at quarterback in 2024. Unless the NCAA somehow finds a way to grant Michael Penix Jr. a 7th year, I think he's done playing for the Huskies and playing college football. I'm not sure what J.J. McCarthy's plans are. I'm sure he'll meditate about it after the championship game, but he still has a decision to make. I think he still has one more year of eligibility left to come back to Michigan. If he wins, if Michigan wins, hey, go out a winner, right? No need to come back. I'm not saying, just that could be his thought process. So those are going to be, regardless of who's playing quarterback for either one of those teams, those are going to be tough road environments, regardless. So again, we don't know who's going to be calling the signals under center for both of those teams. Still, we know that they're not going to have either. We should assume that neither one of their quarterbacks will be back in 2024. again, I want to be clear about this topic. I'm not picking who will win these games. It's not what we're talking about right now. Because we still need to see what USC's roster is going to look like from a month-to-month basis as we go from now, today, through the month of January, February signing day, and then you've got the whole spring camp and the transfer portal window later into the spring as well. So right now, I'm just kind of peeling back one layer at a time, so to speak, the quarterback layer. So those are three teams and their current quarterback situation. LSU, I know they're not part of the big conference, but that's USC's first test, and we need to talk about that game for a reason. And then you've got, I talked about Michigan and Washington. The Trojans open their season up against LSU, then they play Utah State at home in the Coliseum, and then they're at the Big House. Yes, we got that taken care of. Then USC hosts Wisconsin. I mentioned their quarterback, Tanner Mordecai, senior. I don't know if he's returning. I do know that he had a really good game against LSU's defense, and that Wisconsin is expecting Alex Van Dyke, the quarterback who's transferred from Mario Cristobal down there in Miami. He's running to Wisconsin. So I'm going to assume he's the front runner for their starting job. Then USC will play at Minnesota. Their starting quarterback in 2023, his name was Ethan Kaliakmanis. He just finished his first full season as their starter. And he announced on Tuesday that he got into the transfer portal, and he's actually already landed. He's going to be playing quarterback at Rutgers in 2024. Interesting, right? So I don't know. Maybe he just got tired of rowing the boat up there for the Golden Gophers. Then Penn State comes to the Coliseum. Kevin Allar, their starting quarterback. You saw him play in the bowl game. What did you think of his play? Would you take him over Miller Moss? USC will then travel to Maryland. And Maryland's quarterback in 2023, it was Tua's little brother, Taluia Tagovailoa. I really do not want to butcher these names. I need a Burles guide to Polynesian name pronunciations. Out of respect, I want to be able to pronounce these names correctly without butchering them. So again, Tua's little brother, he is Maryland's all-time leader in passing yards. He threw for over 11,000 yards, and he did that over the course of 4 seasons. And he was able to lead Maryland to 3 straight bowl games. Here's the thing. He's waiting for his NFL evaluation to come back. So I guess there's one good quarterback. He could possibly be coming back for another season. If he gets a good evaluation, he's jumping into the NFL draft. USC is going to host Rutgers. Congratulations, Scarlet Knights. You guys finally finished above 500 for the first time in forever. And you even got a bowl win. Yeah, they beat Miami. And I mentioned it looks like they have their new starting quarterback. Minnesota's sophomore who transferred over. How do I pronounce that name again? Ethan Kaliakmanis. It looks like he's going to be the starter for Rutgers when they arrive in Los Angeles. I already talked about how USC is going to be playing in Seattle against the Huskies. They're going to have a new quarterback. I don't know who it is. Then USC is going to host Nebraska. Assuming Dylan Raiola has not transferred again, I think he'll be starting for the Cornhuskers instead of for USC. So he will be playing at the Coliseum. He'll be wearing the white and red, or the red and white. And then USC will travel to UCLA for their final conference game of the 2024 season. Someone explain to me, why? Why would a 5-star Dante Moore leave Chip Kelly when he was the starting quarterback at the beginning of the year before he got hurt to transfer up to Oregon and play for a defensive-minded head coach, Dan Lanning? He's in a sit-out season. So, again, just to be clear about this topic, I know a lot of people aren't sure that, what they hear sometimes. I want to clarify. I'm not picking wins or losses in these games. That's why I'm not even talking about Notre Dame. I know USC's defense is still a concern, and it needs to do what it did in the Holiday Bowl again and again and again, and then continue to get better. However, it's not like the big conference offenses are scary or really, really, really good. Heck, I mean, Oregon, USC doesn't play them, but they might have the best quarterback in the conference next season. He's a sixth-year rental, Dylan Gabriel coming over from Oklahoma. So again, viewer, listening audience, which quarterback in the big conference in 2024 would you want over Miller Moss? That's the question. I need your feedback. Hit me up in the comment section. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll make my business take it to the next level? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire someone from. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats that they might not have the time or the resources to hire somebody. Thankfully, LinkedIn, they made that process intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Just so my everydayers and my new everydayers understand, I really do. I really try really, really, really hard to read each and every comment that comes in. It's hard. I get a lot of them. And sometimes just not enough hours in the day, but I make my very best effort. So I will continue to read your comments online. We'll do that, throughout this off season. But I did notice that some of the discussion since the Holiday Bowl is about Miller Moss, obviously, should be, big topic of conversation, and his performance. And some people are thinking, hey, be careful, might be fool's gold. We've gone down this road before. We're hearing the narrative, quote, it was just one game, relax. There's also been comparisons to other USC quarterbacks who had, he's been compared to quarterbacks who had limited athleticism, who also played well in their first start. Brought up names like Matt Fink, and Matt Fink had that start against Utah where it was just, hey, Michael Pittman, run downfield, I'm going to chuck it up. You're going to go one-on-one. You're going to win the battle. Here's the difference between Miller Moss and Matt Fink. Moss wasn't just chucking passes downfield, hoping to win those one-on-one battles. Miller was making throws all over the field. Short, intermediate, deep, touch. He was making all the throws. Were they perfect? No, not all of them. Vast majority of them were there. The name Keaton Slovis was also brought up. If everybody remembers, Keaton came in, he took over for JT Daniels when JT went down with the injury. In Keaton's first start of the season, back in 2019, that came against Stanford. What did he do? Well, he went out there, threw for 370 yards, 3 touchdowns, and USC rolled. They beat the Cardinal 45-20. here's what Keaton's biggest problem for USC, besides Graham Harrell's play calling, was staying healthy and staying on the field. Keaton stood in the pocket and was willing to take a hit to his own detriment. He wasn't the most athletic guy as well. So when he got outside the pocket, he was taking shots as well. I was a huge Keaton freaking Slovis fan. But, look, you can agree or disagree. He was at USC at the wrong time. The stars were just not aligned for him. Not saying he was the answer, but I think he was more a product of his environment than anything else. Look, when you're tutored by Kurt Warner, you know how to play the game. You know how to play quarterback. Here's the other thing. Miller Moss is better than both Matt Fink and Keaton Slovis. Not a knock on those guys, but we're just talking matter-of-factly. Miller Moss is better than both of those guys. I think Miller is more cerebral. Miller plays within himself. And you know what else he showed after not starting a game for nearly 4 years? He showed that he still knows how to lead a team. That's, I think, the number one thing you want from your quarterback. Are you the team leader? That's what Lincoln Riley looks for. He wants his quarterback to be the captain of his team. Miller Moss checks off that box. If you disagree and want to argue about it, make your case. Does Miller Moss have the strongest arm? Probably not. I mean, can he stand flat-footed and throw the ball 60 yards in the air? I'm not sure. I don't know if he needs to do that. But I know he has a strong enough arm, and his deep ball timing will definitely improve with more real game repetitions. Just a reminder, first time starting, first real game action with meaning since what? Stanford game? Nevada game? I don't know. When was the last time he played? I know that he has a strong enough arm as far as velocity is concerned. Miller can spin it. Look, he can put the ball in a tight window. Hello, touchdown, Kyron Hudson, right over the middle, across the goal line. Ball was on a rope. And he had to put it in a tight window, and he had to have some heat on that ball. Strong arm. And I'm not sure it's fair to gauge his accuracy after one start. Again, more repetitions with his wide receivers, creating that chemistry, right? I think that's going to make up for any, missed opportunity throws, any throws that were high or low, whatever the case might be. I think we need to give Miller more than just one game to say that he's not an accurate thrower. I just don't think that's a fair assessment. He was 23 for 33. We know he ditched a couple of balls at the feet of people to save the down. We know he had a few drops. His accuracy wasn't that bad. So again, I hope we're not asking for perfection, because Caleb, while amazing, he wasn't perfect either. So let's not ask Miller Moss to be perfect. We shouldn't ask anybody to be perfect. Being able to make reads and play within the offense, play within the offensive structure, I think is what is going to make up for any shortcomings that Miller might have. Again, I know it wasn't just me who noticed how fluid the play calling looked without all the audibling going on at the line of scrimmage, or any of that late substitution pattern that USC was finding themselves getting into as the season went along. What made Michael Penix Jr. so good these past two seasons, especially this year, was his ability to get rid of the ball quickly, use the underneath short game. He used that to open up the stuff downfield, because Washington didn't have the greatest run game. It got better as the season went along. They used it, but they used the short passing game, the quick passing game, to open up the stuff downfield. Excuse me. I think that's what Miller needs. That's what he needs to do. And that's also what kept Michael Penix Jr. healthy and upright. He's a big reason why the Washington Huskies offensive line won the Joe Moore Award, which is given to the best offensive line in the country. Miller needs to be more like Michael Penix Jr. That's going to make up for any lack of elusiveness, escapability that he might not have. Miller is smart enough to know when to use his legs. I don't think anybody wants Miller to try and be Caleb Williams. That's not who he is. So again, give me a really good quarterback with elite talent on the outside and a solid offensive line, kind of like what Michael Penix Jr. had at Washington. Those wide receivers, great. They're going to be playing on Sundays. USC's got like 4 freshmen right now. Well, now they're going to be sophomores that are going to be playing on Sundays soon enough. So you show me all of that combination. Really good quarterback, cerebral, smart, can get rid of the ball quickly, makes good decisions, has elite talent on the outside, has a solid offensive line. I'm going to show you a really good quarterback. And then, guess what? If you decide you want to add in a running game and Lincoln Riley's play calling into the equation, I promise you, all of you doubters, or show me some more people that are out there, whatever weaknesses Miller and Moss might have, you combine those things with his abilities, you're going to mask whatever weaknesses he has. So again, I asked at the top of the show in the first segment, which quarterback in the big conference would you rather have? I know I might be coming off as a homer a little bit, sunshine pumper, but Miller Moss right now is looking pretty good. Scared away Malachi Nelson, it appears. Will Howard doesn't want to come anymore. So it seems. So again, I think Miller Moss, whatever weaknesses you might perceive, I think his strengths, and if you put the right supporting cast around him, and you've got Lincoln Riley as his play caller, I think Miller Moss is going to be just okay, maybe even good. We're going to stay on the quarterback topic here real quickly. By the way, let me bring this up here. If you're watching this episode or listening to this episode of Locked on USC, part of the Locked on Network, today is Wednesday, January 3rd. And that means Caleb Williams, he's got 12 days to make his intentions official, because January 15th is the last day to make your declaration for the NFL draft. So the Caleb Williams countdown to declare watch, it's on, it's official, and we're under 2 weeks now. We've got 12 days left. So rhetorical question, hit me up in the comment section. Why the delay? Could he come back? Would he? Should he? I'm going to talk more on that topic on tomorrow's episode. That's a whole segment by itself. So let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming for this segment. You're looking at the rundown here. I'm going to just go over a couple of quick notes here about USC and recruiting. This is the high school All-American game season. So before I get to that, I should let everybody know, I'm sorry for getting ahead of myself. USC got a commitment. They got another wide receiver. Exactly what they needed, right? Everyone's going to roll in their eyes. A wide receiver. That's just what USC needed from the transfer portal. Well, he played his college ball at the Division III level in 2023. His name is Jaden Richardson, and he was also an All-American at the D3 level. He comes to USC courtesy of Tufts University. So he's intelligent. Tufts is a really good academic school. Again, I mentioned he was an All-American. Check this out. He was originally committed to Cal coming out of the transfer portal. He decided to flip his commitment to USC. So we know he's smart. If you can get into Cal, you can get into Tufts. Intelligent player. He's got 4 years. He's been playing college football for 3 or 4 years. He's also a native Californian, and he stands 6'2", 210 pounds. He's originally from San Mateo, Northern California, up there near Stanford. He's considered a really good athlete. Here's some of his measurables. 36-inch vertical. He's reported a 300-pound bench press. That's pretty good. 500-pound squat, 700-pound deadlift, and a 315-pound clean lift. All right. So I guess the first impression is strong body, should be able to handle any type of physicality, anything that the big conference defenses are going to throw at him, right? If you're just looking at those numbers, you will see he's bringing in a wide receiver who can maybe go across the middle, handle some slants. Kind of sounds like another Kyron Hudson type of player. So competition, iron sharpens iron. While he was in the transfer portal, Jaden actually had offers. Well, he announced he had offers from Washington, Wisconsin, Iowa State, Utah, and the aforementioned Cal Berkeley. So some good names in there. He has talent, and we'll see what he brings to the table when he gets to USC. Now, I mentioned just a minute ago, this week, the Under Armour and the Army, formerly known as Army All-American game, they're practicing this week. USC doesn't have a lot of, doesn't have a big presence at either one of these games, which, look, I get it. I used to enjoy watching these games to see, commits make their announcements. That doesn't happen that much anymore. You're already making your announcement during the early signing period in December, or you're waiting till February. You'll have a couple who will make their announcement during this game, but that whole excitement level, it's kind of waned. Just got to roll with it, I guess. So, anyways, my compadre, my partner over there at WeAreSC.com, Scott Schrader, he's down there in Orlando hanging out at the Under Armour game, and he caught up with 2024 offensive line commit Mekhi Saina. This was day 2 of their practice, and Scott reported that Mekhi spent most of his reps facing, at one time, the number 1 ranked player Dylan Stewart, as well as elite 4-star Georgia commit. He's a rush edge. His name is Jordan Ross. And here's what you need to know about Mekhi Saina. If you're not familiar with him, say, well, he's only a 3-star. So what? You know how I feel about this, folks. This is what you need to know. Both Texas and Texas A&M, 2 SEC schools, one who just played for the opportunity to play for the national championship. They wanted Mekhi badly. So USC and Josh Henson, they won that recruiting battle. And Josh Henson initially, I think, wanted to bring in Mekhi as an interior offensive lineman, but he's gonna get a tryout at tackle because they like the way his body looks. He's got those long arms. He's got the frame to play offensive tackle. So this is what Mekhi told Scott, quote, "What they told me was they want to try me out at tackle because they think I've got long enough arms to play there. So they're going to try me out at tackle at first, but Coach Henson has ideas of me trying out at center and guard too. They really like my versatility." So you've got Mekhi out there in Florida. USC also has a presence in San Antonio. Rush edge, Cameron Fountain, big dude. He's in San Antonio. He's checking out that whole scene. This is what he had to say. He talked to Marshall Levinson over at WeAreSC.com. It was fun. It was interesting because, like, sometimes you'll go against somebody tall, then you'll go against somebody short and just big, but they can all move at the same time. So it was fun. It was very challenging, though, because every rep was going to be different. Like, sometimes you may have to use speed, and sometimes you might have to use your strength. So it was interesting, but it was also very challenging. Just want to show people I'm not just an outside linebacker. Like, I can play a little bit of everything and show people I can work with my hands too. end quote. He's going to get a chance to show what he can do at USC right away. Once the All-American game is over, he's packing up his bags and he's heading right out to LA. He's enrolling early. He's going to be taking part in spring camp, winter conditioning workouts. This is a good thing. All right, before we get out of here, I got a question. Again, I always have a question because I want viewer feedback. I want your comments. This is an audience participation show. Do you agree with Kirk Herbstreit? Should we make the Rose Bowl the venue for every national championship game? Aesthetically, the stadium itself, the whole Rose Bowl, the facade on the outside, the setting, beautiful, gorgeous, tradition. Again, the surrounding area really enhances the bowl and the game itself, especially when the sun sets. You heard Kirk Herbstreit talking about it. Just the colors, the orange and the purples, the way the sun sets across, as Keith Jackson used to say, across the Arroyo Seco. It's beautiful. It's Norman Rockwell. It's Americana. It's what college football looks and feels like. But here's the thing. Have you ever attended a game at the Rose Bowl? I have many, 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 many times. It sucks. It's not a fan-friendly place. First, there is the one-way in or one-way out traffic snarl, and it creeps. You could walk from the stadium to the freeway faster than traffic moves, and I'm not joking. And you're walking uphill. The tailgating, it's great on the golf course, but it's still, it's cars just stacked in rows on top of each other. So great tailgating scene, get there early, enjoy it. Nice grassy area. You're on a golf course. However, at the end of the game, especially if it's a late afternoon into the evening game, it gets dark. So unless you're familiar with the place, try finding your car after the game. You end up walking in circles, especially if you like to enjoy a few adult beverages during the game. Oh, and by the way, the bench seating, yeah, not the most comfortable. And it's definitely not made for, we won't shame anybody, for the full-figured people. How's that? Food concessions, terrible. Some of the worst I've ever seen. The lines are long, but those lines aren't as long as the bathroom lines. Again, terrible. It's an old stadium. So this is what we have to take into consideration. Remember, the Rose Bowl used to seat over 100,000 people, and that was before they scaled it back, before they modernized it. I would love for the Rose Bowl to host the national championship game every year. But first, it needs to be upgraded a lot. It needs to have some more modern conveniences brought in. Better amenities. Make it more fan-friendly. I don't know what you can do about the traffic situation. That's out of your control. That's really probably the least of my complaints. But with everything else, if you want to make the Rose Bowl the venue for every national championship game, you need to put some lipstick on that pig. Yeah, sorry. Just calling it as it is. Not trying to be mean, but it's an old stadium. It's got some stuff you got to upgrade. So again, yeah, I'm all for that plan because I anticipate USC playing in that game often. So who's not for an extra home game, right? It might be the stadium where the Bruins play their home games, but never forget, the Rose Bowl is the house that USC built. The Big Ten's getting a lot of Rose Bowl championships coming into their conference, and USC is hoisting those flags. They own quite a few of them, and they plan to add a few more. So yeah, I agree. I'm with you, Kirk Herbstreit, with the caveat, let's improve the place. What do you think? Tell me, what are your thoughts? I'll be back with another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. We're going to talk about that whole Caleb Williams decision-making. What's taking so long? So until then, everyone, you know what to do.